So I would like to ask you all, what do you think a credit risk officer does? What is a credit risk officer? You can type that in the chat box. Okay, so Pamela said check credit scores. Hmm, I might unmute Dominique. Dominique, oh, we have Don here, Don Mishimoto from Robertson Branch, and we also have Dominique, who is our credit risk officer from Bank of America, here with us today, and they will be. So I just want to ask Dominique Bellamy, tell me, what do you
Hey
think of
everyone.
the answers?
These answers look good. Check credit score. That is a part of the responsibilities. Someone who finds out how likely someone may default on a loan. That pretty much sums it up. That's a great answer. Um, so who handles the money put on credit cards and check in? Yep, that's a part of the role as well. Someone who decides a person. Yep, that's a good summary as well. Someone who decides if a person can get a loan. So yeah, you guys all pretty much nailed it on the head. Someone who evaluates the risk of someone getting a loan, essentially. Um, so I'm a credit risk officer at Bank of America. I actually just started in a role this summer during this pandemic. So I'm actually in the process of still learning everything, but at the same time, everything you guys answered nailed it on the head. So great job.
That's awesome. I'm going to turn this over to Don and have Don interview you and ask you more about your awesome job. But I'm so glad that
Yeah.
our amazing participants here have a really great idea of what they know, what a credit risk officer does. So I'm going to turn it over to Don. Go ahead, Don.
Thank you, Lynn. And first off, Dominique, thank you very much for sharing your time with everyone.
Yeah, no.
I have to say, I'm pretty impressed with these responses because I am a thoroughly middle-aged person and I have a very difficult time understanding what a credit risk officer is. Just in case there are some folks that may not understand it, can you break down like those words in your title? Like what is, like in a financial sense, what is credit? What is risk?
So credit is like, I guess someone borrowing money, essentially. So yeah, that credit part, when you guys talked about someone getting a loan, that's where the credit part comes in, someone borrowing money. And then the risk is how likely are they to pay back their money? How risky will it be for the bank to get their money back from after they lend it to that borrower? And then the officer is just kind of like a hierarchy of your experience, essentially. But yeah, that's you guys broke it down very well in your answers. That was perfect. But yeah, that's basically how it breaks down. And my role specifically, I think there's different types of credit risk officers throughout banking. But what I specifically do is I'm a part of a group called the Special Assets Group, and we look at clients that are already with Bank of America, and if they're starting to either miss payments, or we can see looking at their financial statements that they're starting to make less money, or they're starting to borrow from other banks more often. We want to try to get ahead of it so that we to figure out what's going on, if we need to restructure their loans or kind of come up with a strategy to make sure we get paid back, or just to help them with their business to make sure they're staying on track. That's the group that I'm a part of.
So I know you said that you had just recently started this position, but like, what does your day-to-day life look like? Like, what?
Yeah. So for me right now, it's still a little bit of training. We have everything's online right now. I'm working from home. But the day-to-day looks like you're assigned, let's say, a group of clients. It could be anywhere from 1 to, I know people who have 30 different clients. A lot of it is communicating with the client to try to figure out what's going on, kind of talk to the client, see what's going on, reviewing their financial statements. So looking at the balance sheets, the income statements, cash flow statements. And then you're also working with your team members to come up with a strategy to see what we can implement to make sure that we're to not, we do want to make sure we get paid back from any loans that we give to the borrower, but we also want to make sure we're not just straining the borrower. We don't want to just say, give us all your money. We want them to have a successful business, because we don't want to just put them out of business. That's not our goal. So we work as a team, try to come up with a strategy. So that a lot of the time is looking at financials and then also communicating with your team to see what strategies you can put into place.
When you talk about like working with customers or clients, are you talking about sort of like individuals like you and me, or is it like businesses?
Yes, it's businesses. I'm more with like smaller businesses. So people who generate revenue of, I think, up to like 5 million. But yeah, it's businesses, but sometimes when they're smaller businesses, it could be a smaller mom and pop business, or they're not a big corporation, but yeah, they're businesses.
So I feel like there's a lot of stuff from like just obviously in the last few months, there's a lot of things in the world that have changed. But just even like thinking a little further back, like it was, been like a little bit more than like 10 years since we had like a huge recession. I'm wondering if like and I do want to talk also a little bit about your other jobs prior to this one, but just like what are sort of like the big changes that have happened in like the last 10 years in your field? I feel like I sense that there's probably been a lot of things that have changed.
Yeah, I may not have the best answer, but I guess since I just started within the last 2 or 3 months, but I think because of the pandemic, there's a lot more clients that we work with within my group. So obviously everyone's been affected by it. There are some businesses who have kind of excelled during this time, like internet-based companies. They haven't been too affected, but obviously restaurants, they've been affected a lot. Dentist offices, doctor's offices, they've been affected. So we're getting to work with probably different clients that we didn't think we need to in the past, because they've never really had any financial hardships. Once they start their business, they would keep rolling and everything was fine. I think now we're seeing more different types of businesses struggling, and that's just across the board, just because of what we're going through right now.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
I imagine there's like a lot of folks also in the crowd too that probably may have some direct experience through like family and friends and stuff like that. I do want to talk a little bit about your background too, because I think Lynn had mentioned that you were a financial analyst prior to this.
Yeah, so I was a financial advisor. I guess I can give like my full backstory. So I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois. I grew up there, and then I went to school at a small school in Iowa called Grinnell College, and studied economics. I honestly really didn't know what I wanted to do after college. I played sports my entire life. I played basketball in college. And so I didn't really have a specific plan afterwards. I knew I wasn't playing professional sports, but I kind of just figured an economics degree would give me options afterwards, and I would just figure it out. And so after college, I started to work for a commercial auto insurance company as an underwriter. And so it's almost the same thing of what I do now in a sense, because an underwriter, we kind of look at a risk and say, should we give this person or this business insurance? Like, how likely are they to get into an accident or not pay back the policy? So that underwriting aspect was something I had experience in. I did that for 5 years, and then I moved out here, and then I pursued a career as a financial advisor. And I did that for the past year and a half. And that was something that I kind of wanted to do after college, but I didn't know where to begin. I didn't have a finance degree. I didn't really know like if I would be successful or not. I didn't know like how to go about it, to be honest. So it took me a little time, I guess, almost just to work up the courage to just apply and change careers, because I just didn't know where to go. And so after 5 years in insurance, I just decided I didn't enjoy that insurance career. I should just go for something that I know I'm going to enjoy, what I love to do. And so I started working at Merrill Lynch, which is a part of Bank of America, as a financial advisor. And I really liked that role, but it was different than what I expected. So that position, you're basically working with clients, creating like investment portfolios and making sure that they can retire, that their money doesn't run out during retirement. Essentially, you're trying to help them reach their goal, whatever their goals are. It could be to provide for their kids, to leave behind assets when they pass away. There could be different things, and so you're coming up with a plan to help them reach that goal. And when you're starting off, you don't experience that too much because you're trying to get new clients. And so it's a really big sales role. And that's what I didn't expect when I went into that position. And so like I would highly recommend it for people who want to work in investments or with financial planning, but it is a sales aspect to it. So just know that going into it. So yes, right before the pandemic happened, I was going through a transition period with that position, and I kind of had to figure out a new path. A lot of companies weren't hiring. I kind of wasn't sure like where to go after that. So I stayed within Bank of America because an opportunity opened up, and as a credit risk officer, it allowed me to kind of take the aspects of everything that I've done throughout my career that I enjoy. So I get to work with clients, help them, in a sense, help them reach their goals, because although I'm like trying to have them pay back their loans, I'm also talking with them, figuring out how they can make their business more successful. Because once they're successful, then we get repaid. So it works hand in hand. So I get to work with clients, and then I also got to utilize my underwriting experience where I'm like investigating or kind of doing that and analytical aspect. So it was the best of both worlds for me. But that's how I arrived to this point. There's a lot of twists and turns. I mean, I'm still kind of figuring it out. But I think like programs like this where you can hear someone kind of go through their experience, I didn't really have that. So I didn't even know where to begin when I wanted to become an advisor.
Thank you for sharing that. As someone that's also like had their fair share of like twists and turns in their career, definitely sort of speaks to me. I'm curious, like throughout that time, like when you're going from insurance underwriting to becoming a financial advisor to your current position, like was there, like how would you find out about these different positions or fields? Like, or were there people helping guide you? Like, what was that process like?
Yeah, a little bit of everything, like different people. Like I would ask friends and family, try to network as much as possible. I also utilize LinkedIn a lot. So they have a job section on there, and you can just kind of put in different titles or companies and look and see what they have open. But I think networking was probably the biggest thing, because to get into Merrill Lynch, I did know I have a family member that works there in Chicago, but I didn't get my foot in the door until someone out here, it was through a family friend. She brought me to a Merrill Lynch event, and I got to meet a lot of HR people and just direct contact. So when I applied, I could just email them, and I still had to interview and everything, but it got my like application to the right person immediately. So I think networking is probably the biggest thing. Even if you don't know what your end goal is yet, just getting that information and talking to people can help you figure it out, essentially.
I know for some people, like the family opinion of what their child does, it can be kind of like a big deal. Like, was your family ever guiding you? Were they supportive or kind of like hands off? Like, was there a role of your family in this?
I would say there wasn't a big role. I think it does help that I have their support in the sense of like, if I end up failing in anything that I do, I can go back to my family. They are in my life, so I have that support. They're not. I wouldn't say they're always. They don't always agree with every decision I make, but at the same time, if I know why I'm doing something, I guess I kind of just have to go with it. It's kind of, you can't really please everyone, and at the end of the day, they do have your best interest in mind. At least my parents have my best interest in mind, but I mean, they've gone through life themselves, and so whatever they didn't achieve or whatever fears they may have, they're gonna kind of project that onto me at times. So I kind of have to try to listen to them, take their advice, but at the same time, if I can see that this is what I want to do, then I have to pursue it. Because that's half the battle. I think it's like, if you really want to do it, you can be successful in it, no matter what people say. And that's, yeah, you kind of just have to like try to tone it out.
Yeah.
But I do have their support. I know that they have my best interest, even if they disagree with it. I know they ultimately I have their support. Yeah.
I think that's really helpful to hear. Yeah, I'm thinking back to like when I was like 15 or 16, and like to think about like where you are, where your mindset is at when you're an adult. It's very different. I want to go back to another thing that you had mentioned. You made it an interesting observation about like the insurance underwriting position and the financial advisor position sort of having these sort of like sales components. And I'm wondering, what were the qualities of each of your jobs in each of your career fields that you liked, and what were the aspects that you could kind of do without?
Yeah, I think so. I guess starting out as an underwriter, I think the biggest thing is just working with people was something I really enjoyed. So there wasn't any sales in my underwriting role. There was just, I had to work with insurance agents. I worked with my immediate team. And so I just always communicated with different people. So I really enjoyed that. I got to help I underwrote commercial auto insurance. And so a lot of it was trucking companies or like just different vehicles for businesses. And so I got that sense of like helping them. I feel like I was helping those companies be successful in a sense because they needed insurance. I was trying to do what was best for them or give them the best policy to help them so that they could further their business, I guess. And as an advisor, I think a little bit of the same thing. That one is more direct. You know, you're helping someone. Like you're coming up with a strategy or a financial plan to help them reach their financial goals. So you get to know those people personally. They become like close family, or they become family or friends. And so I like that aspect of it. And I think if you stay in that career like more than 5 years, the sales aspect it starts to go down, because when you're first starting, you're trying to build your business and you're trying to get new clients. So that is a big sales aspect. So that was the one thing I didn't like about that, but or maybe I just wasn't comfortable, I should say. I shouldn't say I disliked it, but I just wasn't comfortable yet. And then in my new role, it's still new, so I can't really say what I dislike. But I think for me, because I grew up playing sports, I just really enjoy the team atmosphere. And I really get that in this role. Like we have like group chats on Skype. We talk to each other pretty much every day. So I enjoy that. I'm still learning a lot. So I think I'm going to learn a lot in this role. Like there's a lot of accounting in this position. It's like a financial analyst type role. And so, I think I'm going to be able to learn a lot and further my career from here.
Prior to getting into these positions, like were there particular skills or experiences or classes that you took that you felt like those are the things that really helped prepare you for these jobs?
Yeah. So it's funny. I thought that you might ask that question. I was thinking like I guess yes and no. I can't think of anything specifically, but the funny thing is like you learn everything in your role. So like there really isn't any specific skills that you need aside from communication skills. You need to know how to communicate with people through, email, over the phone. Obviously, like basic math and maybe a little bit of accounting. But honestly, you learn everything right there in the job. That I think just the curiosity and motivation to do well is enough to excel in any particular role. And I hate to sound like, I don't know, cliche in a sense, because you don't need any specific skills half the time. When you come in, they're gonna train you on what you have to do. And in every role that I've had, everyone had different backgrounds. I remember like people would change careers from being a teacher to go into this finance position, and they could be just as successful. So there wasn't any particular background that lined up with each role. As long as you were just curious about this position, this is something you want to do, and you stay motivated, you could be successful.
I think it's good to know. I feel like for a lot of fields, people that may have like a lot of like preconceptions about like what it is that you need to do. You need to like do, check off certain boxes. But knowing that a lot of people come into it in a different way, that's really good to hear.
And I think like, sorry, just to add, because I know like when you're applying for a job, they have that list of like, you should have this, 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 and this. And of course they want you to check those boxes, but you don't always have to. Like I would say, don't let that deter you from pursuing something that you want to do, because I don't, and even in my role now, I don't think I didn't have the credit like analysis background that they particularly wanted. But I'm still here. So it's just a matter of like, if you get to the interview part, like half of it is just about being yourself, and showing them what you bring to the table. And if it doesn't match up with exactly what they wanted, that may be fine, because they want diversity, and not just in skin color, like in thought. So being different than what they're asking for could be to your benefit.
So the time just flew by. we're almost like out of our time. I see there are also some great questions in the chat box, so I think we'll try to get to those at the end when we have the Q&A section. But just to wrap up, so a lot of the folks that are in attendance today, they're young adults ranging from teens to early 20s. Like, do you have any recommendation for like folks that are at that point in their life? Like if they were thinking about this field, or any of the fields that you've talked about, like, what sorts of things that they could be doing if they're thinking about those fields?
I think to start, just do a little research. You can Google a lot of things, like different positions. Like the term like finance is so broad that there's like so many different positions within that field. And so I guess the first thing would just do a little research, and you can see like what types of positions there are out there. And then it's tough to say like have your plan set, because your plan is going to change. Like I'm 29 years old, and I'm still like adjusting as time goes. And I didn't know I would be in this position, 3 years ago, let alone 10 years ago. So the main thing would just do some research, and just, I think the last thing I want to say is just, it's okay to not know everything right now. Like, don't be too hard on yourself. Like, I know, like I don't want it to be like you shouldn't do nothing, but like, it's okay to continue to learn and figure it out. So as long as you're always moving forward or trying to move forward, that's the best advice I would say. It's like, don't be too hard on yourself. Just always trying to strive to get better. And that's pretty much it.
Oh, that's fantastic. I think that's a fantastic note to end on. Thank you very much, Dominique.
Thank you.
I want to turn it over to Lynn so we can talk with Maggie.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you, Dominique. Those are some great tips and advice. And I love that answer. You don't have to figure it all out right now. So I did see a few questions in the chat box. I just I will definitely get to those questions and we'll ask Dominique those questions. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to Maggie. We have Maggie Nguyen here with us today. She is the director of, or senior director of finance at Oakview. So Maggie,
Hi,
tell us a
everyone.
little bit about yourself and what you do.
Hi, everyone. So I am the Senior Director of Finance at Oakview Group. Oakview Group, here we build stadiums and manage stadiums. So there's a couple of facilities that we are building right now, multi-billion-dollar projects. Big one right now is Seattle Key Arena, it's a big one, and UT Austin, a few others. But in my role as a Senior Director of Finance, underneath me I have about a team of 5. In our finance of accounting group, we have about 10 people. Day-to-day operations for accounting flows through me and also VP of accounting. And then on the finance side, I work with our CFO, our VPs, and also senior management to lay out plans for the next 12 months, 5 years, just to make sure that we have enough funding to get these stadiums up and going and also to keep the lights going here.
That sounds amazing and a lot. Can you tell us a little bit, how did you get into this position as a senior director of finance? So like, tell us about your history and where you went to school and all the job positions you've held.
Sure. So my working career, it's been about 15 years, so it's a little longer. I started off, so I'm going to probably start you guys with where I went to school and how I decided to go from there. I actually, right after high school, decided to go to a junior college, mainly because of personal reasons and also financial reasons. For financial reasons, my family at that time, my mom was going through cancer, and I'm was born and raised in Florida, and I didn't want to go too far away from school, for school. So I decided to go to junior college at that time to figure out what I wanted to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do when I got out of high school. I thought at that time the newest thing to join was computer science. I thought I wanted to go into law. But junior college helped me figure out where I want to focus and where I want to spend my next 2 years to finish university. So at junior college, I took care of my general education. I got to spend time with my family, and fortunately when I transferred out, I got into UCLA, so I actually went out of state, and it's really expensive to go out of state. So I took that time to finish junior college in Florida, locally at a lower cost, and then went to UCLA for 2 years. When I went to UCLA, I actually majored in business economics, and when I first entered, when I thought business economics, I just thought it was business general, but it's actually more of an accounting background. So I learned that once I stepped in. Fortunately, when I graduated from UCLA, accounting was a big, it was a big degree at that time because a lot of Big Four, which is public accounting companies, Big Four is Deloitte, PricewaterhouseCoopers, KPMG, and E&Y were hiring that time for their public accounting, and I went to PricewaterhouseCoopers as a assurance auditor, so public accounting, and I was there for 4 years. Moved up to senior accountant or senior auditor, and decided public accounting wasn't for me. It was tough hours. It was really rewarding because you get to work with a lot of senior managers and CFOs from different companies at that time, just to learn what they were doing, but not actually working for the company. So it's Excel growth. And then I transitioned to private accounting. I worked at Playboy for 9 years. And then during those 9 years, I figured accounting wasn't really my thing, but I had a very solid background in it. I got my CPA. I moved up in my career, but I was ready to transition from accounting to finance. And the difference between accounting and finance is accounting is more record keeping and making sure everything's in order and the books are right. You're more of the record keeper. In finance, you're actually working with the senior managers and the business owners and are in the driver's seats with them. Although you're not in sales, you're not in marketing, you're not making the deals, you're attached to their hips to let them know if they're meeting their targets, if they have enough cash flow to do their business, if they're doing better or worse than their competitors out there. So it's actually really exciting to help them provide them the numbers. And to make that transition, I went to UCLA again for my MBA. And I was working part-time and going to school, well, actually full-time working part-time school. Graduated after 3 years and transitioned from Playboy to here. So I've been here for 2 years now. Just got my 2 years last week.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness, you have such a huge, education background and just everything from accounting to finance. Can I ask you what for anybody that wants to major in accounting, like what kind of skills would they need to be an accountant versus being someone that does finance?
Sure. I think in accounting, what you want to do is, if you're interested in doing accounting, you can, and you're at your let's assume that you're at your university, you should take some accounting classes. There are probably accounting 101, 102. There's general accounting classes that you can take so that you can see if it's something that you're interested in. You can also, without the background, sign up and apply for jobs in accounting. A lot of time people who are at an entry level will come into accounting through accounting clerk. So you're entering the data for bills that are coming into the corporate company and helping them process that. So you can see the flow of bills coming in and receivables going out, meaning invoices that needs to be billed out. And then once you're in there and you get your feet wet, you can see if it's something you really want to do and grow in.
Okay, that's great. And did you always know, like, how did you know that you wanted to major in economics or, do accounting or finance? Were you always a math whiz? Do you have to be a mathematician to know all of this?
No, not at all. I have to say, I think math was always easiest for me. My parents are immigrants and they couldn't really help me with my schoolwork, especially with English or anything like that, but they were really good with math. And when my parents decided to branch off and make their own business, my mom and dad have their own boutique shop for the last 30 years. They do slipcover and upholstery work. And while I was in high school, I did their bookkeeping for them, so it became a knack. I just felt more comfortable with going down that route. And when I was trying to figure it out in junior college, what I wanted to do, I just kind of gravitated towards to general business classes. I liked the classes I took, and it kind of steered me to where I needed to be. So when I joined UCLA, I thought business economics was business, but it's usually once you go in there and you start taking the classes, it's mostly accounting heavy. And I think by then I was already fully on board. I was already out in California. I moved out here for the business economics degree, and accounting just kind of fit that bill.
Amazing. And I know you said you've been at your job for 2 years now. What has been the most rewarding part about your job and also the most challenging part about your job?
So this company is a startup company. It's only been around for 5 years, so it's a lot of intense hours. We have about 100 people here locally, but also when you consider the facilities and stuff, are about 5,000 people. It's grown a lot since I've been here for the last 2 years, and we're building things out, so there's a lot to learn. The most rewarding thing is having a team that's willing to kind of get down and dirty with you and build up this business. So the infrastructure isn't there. It's not a long-term business that's been around for a long time. So I think the rewarding part is seeing it grow, being part of that growth and contributing to it and seeing how much it's grown since I've been here. The most challenging thing is knowing when to turn off your computer, because there's always deadlines that comes up, and trying to find that self-time and personal boundaries, especially during this COVID, since I'm working from home. When I turn on the computer in the morning, I need to know when to turn it off by nighttime or not. I will be working all the way until I'm going to bed. And that doesn't sound very, very enticing for a lot of people.
Wow. And now that we're in the middle of the pandemic, can you tell us a little bit about how the pandemic has affected your job? Are you able to work from home?
It's very easy to work from home. All of our systems are on a cloud, so it's easy to share. A lot of my meetings are through Zoom. It's very possible to work from home. I have some coworkers who decided to actually move back to their home state because they need help with childcare, or they just want to be closer to family, and this allows it for them to work from home. I see even after the pandemic, it's possible for us to all work from home still. But it's nice to have that camaraderie if we are able to be in person and sit in a conference room and talk. Like doing it over like a Zoom chat's just fine.
Does your job or does your company offer any internship positions?
We did. Right now at this time, because of the pandemic, it's a little bit harder because we're not there to help coach or kind of guide you along. But at probably last year, we did have like 2 intern positions in my group to help out with the accounts payable clerk side. Just it helps. I mean, we're down the street from UCLA as well, so there are some students at the university who works at our office part-time for a couple hours before they go to class. So it worked out for them and also for us, so that we can just get caught up in our processing as well, and it's good exposure for them.
So for any teens or for any college students out there that are still trying to figure out what it is that they want to do, what is some advice that you can give to them, whether they want to major in business economics, accounting, or finance? Like, what is some really, good advice that you can give from what you went through?
So I was only at UCLA for 2 years. When I got here, a lot of my classmates were telling me about career day, doing online recruiting or on-campus recruiting, trying to get the internship, because usually internships means you can secure the job right afterwards. I joined that very late. But so the first year when I did it, I didn't get any job offerings. I was very sad and devastated because I was hoping that I would secure one. But I went back the next year again, honed in my skills, meaning, not being afraid to come up and ask for a business card and asking questions about their jobs. And most likely, a lot of people like to talk about their jobs anyway when they're there, and making that relationship. So going through on-campus recruiting was something that helped me. I also checked out the job boards, the career job boards in college helped out a lot because there's always posting there. Take that internship if you can. If you don't, it's not the end of the world. I worked at an accounting firm or a company down the street from school part-time, and they had an opening for a clerk to help a couple hours out of the day, and that helped build my resume. So when it was time for me to look for a different job, PricewaterhouseCoopers, it was on my job resume. And I think if you are interested in going into accounting or finance, having some of these classes underneath your belt, just so that you can say that I've taken these classes, I enjoyed it, I want to learn more. I think having the ability to say that you are interested in wanting to learn more opens you up to a lot of opportunities. We're always looking for someone that's motivated. Everything else can be learned on the job. And of course, if you want to move up to management, there is always going down the MBA route. Not necessary, you don't have to. I mean, your job career can take you there, but it's always nice to have it on the resume.
It's wonderful. If you could turn back time to your teenage self or young self, barely fresh out of college, what is something that you would tell yourself, or is there anything that you would do differently?
I wouldn't be so tough on myself. I think I was really devastated after that first year of not getting my internship or getting the job offering I wanted. I saw everyone around me getting it, and I was so vested in that coming out here, and I wanted to secure that job. And I know a lot of people coming out of college really wants to, have some security, knowing where they wanted to go. Know that if you continue to look, LinkedIn, go through your networks, look at the job boards. Coming to these sessions are a great networking opportunity, especially during COVID, since you really can't do on-campus recruiting. Being there, being present, asking questions will open opportunities for you. So don't be afraid. Don't be scared at right now. I mean, like the pandemic is kind of scary in the economics right now, but things will reopen and opportunities will be there. So I wouldn't be too hard. Well, I wouldn't be too hard on myself if I had to do it again.
Thank you. And I have one last question for you. What is something that you do for self-care?
I have a very doting boyfriend who makes me go out to run a lot. I play softball, I run, and for this time being during COVID, I've been sewing. My mom's a seamstress and my dad does upholstery work. So it's in my blood to sew. So I've been making a lot of masks for friends and family during this time. It's something I like to do, and it just kind of zones me out. Sometimes I turn into a little bit of a sweatshop at home, but it helps me relax.
That's so great. Well, Maggie, thank you so much for sharing everything about your background. I'm just so impressed by both you and Dominique, and also thank you for sharing your personal story about your mom. I'm sure that our entire audience here really appreciates everything that you've shared with us today. So I'm going to open it up to Q&A with our amazing audience members. Please do take the time to type in the chat box what you would like to ask our amazing guest speakers today. I do have a few that have already asked, and this could be both for Dominique and Maggie. We had a question up here, and Natalie asked, is your job math heavy? So I'll start off with you, Maggie.
Yes, well, it's a very Excel heavy, so it's not math heavy. You have to be comfortable with numbers for sure, and I want to say the two programs that I spend the most doing or working with is Excel and PowerPoint. So it is a skill set when I look to hire. PowerPoint's not necessary, but you have to be comfortable with Excel. You don't have to be advanced, but or intermediate. You just have to be able to operate it and know it.
That's great. How about for you, Dominique? Is your job math heavy?
Yeah, I think the same thing Maggie said. Not necessarily math heavy, but Excel. You don't have to do a lot of calculating yourself, but we do use systems that do a lot of calculations for us, Excel, and you have to be comfortable enough to make sure that it all makes sense.
Thank you. And then another question here is, so I know, Dominique, you said you majored in economics. What does the economics entail? And I know, Maggie, you majored in economics as well. So why did you both choose economics? I'll start with you, Dominique.
Yeah. Well, I went to a liberal arts school, so we didn't have like a finance major or anything. I thought it was just, honestly, I just kind of picked it because it was broad. I figured it would just look good on my resume, to be honest. But you do learn a lot. Like you learn about, I guess, how the economy works, essentially. Like there's a lot of different classes, and it feels like it's been so long, so I'm trying to remember it, like courses. But obviously, you take like micro and macroeconomics. I can remember game theory. There's a bunch of different courses, but I knew that I would get like it helps you kind of figure out how to think, essentially, or like develop critical thinking skills and things like that. So that's kind of why I picked it, because I knew it would somewhat help me when I started to go into looking for jobs.
Wonderful. How about for you, Maggie?
The only thing I remember about economics was supply and demand. That was it.
Yeah.
Game theory, I mean, like, I agree with you. I think it just kind of sets you up so that you have a very analytical approach to understanding how the economy or like businesses work, how competitors, and if you were in, I guess the example in some of the books is ABC, how would XYZ compete against you? So it gives you just kind of like not a narrow-minded look to business operations.
Thank you. I hope that answers your question, Brandon, about what was economics like in college, since we have both of our experts here. And Natalie asked, what role do you play in the development of low-income communities? Is gentrification today recognized within the ultra analytical aspects of loan building? This sounds like it's for you, Dominique.
Yeah, I personally don't play a role in that just because of the group that I'm a part of. But I do believe that Bank of America has, you know, they do. I feel like they have people that are focused on that. I'm not one of those people.
That's okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. We can find out that answer for you, Natalie. This question is going to be for Maggie. Maggie, how do you know whether accounting or finance is for you?
You gotta test it out and see. No, don't do that, Rob. I think it figures if you're the type that wants to make sure everything's dotted correctly, like your I's are dotted, your T's are crossed, everything's in order, numbers are presented correctly, then accounting's for you. It's very regimented. In finance, I find it where you are not trying to figure what fits into what box or what peg fits into what hole. You're actually sitting there and trying to be in the driver's seat and see where the business is going. But you have to have a very solid accounting background to know if your finances are in order to meet those goals. So you can get into finance without accounting. There's a lot of roles that allows you to jump directly into finance, but finance is a very broad role. In my world, it's corporate finance. So I'm doing financing for a company. There is finance for personal. I think that's what Dom was doing before, like as a personal advisor. There's finance for investment banking, where you are doing finance for a portfolio. So it's a broad range of it, and you can jump directly into that without going to accounting.
That's amazing. Thank you for that. And then this question is for you, Maggie. What role does Oakview Group play in the development of low-income communities? Are increases in urban rent due to the effects of large projects taken into account? And what is the lowest rating Oakview Group has accepted for a large investment?
Ooh, so we've only been around for 5 years. I'm not sure what the effect of it is on rent due or around the large project, but I would assume it's probably increasing the rent around the projects where they are situated. So my boss was the former executive at AEG, and they built the Staples Center in downtown LA. And now, the development in downtown LA, the rent and stuff has increased because of the developments around there. So LA Live, Staples Center, without that development there, I don't think the rent would have gone up. So with each development, any development, you would see housing built around it. You would see shops being built around it. And of course, that's going to raise your rent. Our Seattle Key Arena is probably our most expensive one right now, but we are looking at 5-6 different other projects. And I think we're at almost $900 million into this project. And we're going to be opening up in 2021.
Wow. I hope that answers your question, Natalie. That's a lot of great information. And then I know you mentioned that the owner was also previously from AEG, who was the founder, or did they build the Staples Center and LA Live? Are there any other projects going on here in Los Angeles?
Right now, I think down near the Forum, the Clippers is developing their own stadium. It's not with Oakview Group. I'm not sure who is building that. I wouldn't be surprised if it's AEG. There are other competitors in our field. There's also, you guys probably know, the Rams building just recently opened. So that's down there. And what is another one? I know there's another one. Can't think of it over the top of my mind, but yes. Oh yes, Raiders is in Las Vegas. And that's not also with us either, unfortunately.
Do you prefer working for a startup as opposed to the big organizations you worked for previously? What are the differences?
It probably is a question depending on where you are in your career. So if you are starting out, coming out of college, here's your pros. If you go into a big shop, meaning a big company, you will be exposed to if you decide to go into public accounting, let's just say public accounting, you will be exposed to a lot of different businesses. You're not confined to just one company. You will work on a project, multiple projects actually sometimes, and we'll see different companies. You will be interacting with CFOs, managers, and VPs. So your learning curve is very high. So your exposure is high. If you go to a smaller shop or just to a smaller company, you'll only learn the ins and outs of that company. It's not a bad place to start either because you can learn from the grassroots up. But if you're looking for more exposure, I would say public accounting. If you go to a startup, startups are challenging in the fact that you are wearing multiple hats at once. So as an entry-level person, you might be doing accounts receivable, accounts payable, sometimes general ledger work, which is great, but it can be a lot on your plate if you're willing to take on that role.
Thank you for that question, or thank you for that answer. This will be for both of you. Aria asked, what is the most difficult part about working with money? I'll start off with you, Dominique.
I think just that, just how important it is. Like, I guess you don't want to make any mistakes. Like, any mistakes that you make will have a big impact on your client or whoever you're working with. So I think that's probably the most difficult part. It's not difficult, but it's just more so pressure in a sense. Like, you don't want to make any errors when you're working with money.
How about for you, Maggie? What's the most difficult part about working with money on your end?
I have to say the same thing with Dom. You don't want to make a mistake in your calculation, especially if, you forget a decimal or there's a data entry error. 1 million is very different from 100,000. So it could be material. So you want to be detailed and meticulous and making sure that whatever you're inputting into your worksheets and whatnot ties out and agrees. So you have to have a very detail-oriented mindset.
Thank you. Brandon here asks, what real-world applications does econ give you? If you had a different job, would you still use economics? This could be for Dominique.
Yeah, I think that kind of goes back to what I said earlier. Like, I couldn't tell you exactly what I learned in those courses, but I think just the overall experience was beneficial, and it kind of shaped how I think now. So I think that's probably the biggest part of it, because I could think of some courses, but I couldn't tell you the details of those classes. So I think it's just the critical thinking and analytical thinking that you get from that type of degree.
Thank you, Dominique. How about for you, Maggie? What real world applications does econ give you?
That's a good question. I don't have an answer. Yeah, I do not have an answer for you.
Or how about this one? What classes in college did you find most helpful later on? And I know for you, Maggie, you've taken a lot of schooling.
I would say if you really are interested in finance or accounting, take that Accounting 101 class. You can quickly know if it's something that you want to do or you don't want to do. If you're not comfortable with it or you hate it, it's probably not what you want to step into.
Thank you. And both of you, do you consider your job your passion? Maggie, do you love your job?
If I didn't love my job, I wouldn't be spending so much time on it. But I'm good at it. I wish it wasn't my passion, but I do spend a lot of time with
it. How about for you, Dominique?
Yeah, I think I'm still learning if it is, but I think aspects of my job is things I'm passionate about. So I would say yes.
Wonderful. Sophia asks, is finance a diverse field? Maggie, I'll let you get that one.
Yes, it's a very diverse field. I think finance is a very general field. I think if you are interested in finance, you can see that it will lead you to different roads, depending on where you want to take your career in there. So like I mentioned before, there's personal finance. You can be an advisor. You can work at a corporate company that needs finance support. helping them figure out where they want to go, or you can be in general, like investment banking. That's another field too.
Thank you, Maggie. And I'm going to take one last question here from Lauren, since we're running out of time here. Lauren asks, is Oakview Group working with IOC in preparation for the LA Olympics at all?
I haven't heard anything. And also the Olympics was happening. It's in, what year is it now?
2028 or 2024, 2028.
It's 2028, yeah.
It takes us about 4 to 5 years to build a stadium. And to even get that set up and ready to go, we would already have to have conversations in place. I wouldn't be surprised if there might be some conversation about maybe a joint venture and creating one, but there's nothing in our portfolio right now about LA. And also I think there's just limited land in LA and a lot of competitors.
Yeah, I feel like everybody wants to come to LA if they wanted to build stadiums here. I mean, everybody loves LA and we have such great weather here, except for this week, but yeah. So everybody, I hope that we were able to answer all of your questions today. I went ahead and linked in our survey in the chat box. Please, please, please do take the time to fill out that survey for us. And I just want to highlight, I just want to thank Maggie and Dominique and also Don for being here with us today and for, helping us understand more about their careers and what it takes to get to that position, or what it takes to get into their career field. So hopefully you're inspired to go to school and major in economics, or get an MBA, become a CPA, or even be a credit risk officer, and just really taking advantage of all of the resources available to you. So please do take the time to do your research, as Dominique and Maggie said. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna fix the survey right now. Are there any last words from Maggie and Dominique that you'd like to tell everybody?
No, I would say thank you for having me. Yeah, hopefully this was informative for all of you guys, and you guys learned a lot. Yeah, feel free to add me on LinkedIn, or if I can answer any other questions, I'm more than happy to. But yeah, I think just be confident in whatever you want to pursue and go into it 100%, and you won't fail.
How about for you, Maggie?
Also the same, if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. LinkedIn as well. I don't know if Lynn has shared our contact information, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. And good luck. Don't be afraid to reach out, and good luck in your pursuit and whatever you want to do. Hopefully we answered some of your questions that you had.
Oh, Brandon asked what's LinkedIn. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put the LinkedIn group here. Thank you, Maggie. Thank you, Dominique. I'm gonna hang out here for the next 5 minutes. So Maggie and Dominique, I don't want to hold you guys here any longer. I will take care of everybody here in our chat group. But if anybody here has questions, please do feel free to email me, and I would be happy to forward your questions. And I'm going to go ahead and put Maggie and Dominique's LinkedIn in our chat box. So LinkedIn is like it's a professional social network. So think of it like a Facebook for professionals, where everybody goes to, share ideas, learn about each other's jobs. And I will say that there's a lot of amazing job opportunities that, you could find through LinkedIn, because there's always recruiters on there. So sometimes, you'll find if you put that you have a background in accounting or finance and you're looking for a job, a recruiter from a big company might reach out to you and say, hey, I saw that you're working for this company, you have some experience, would you like to interview for this job position that we have open at our company? So that's what LinkedIn is. Okay, I will go ahead and share that in there. So yeah, Maggie and Dominique, thank you again. You guys
Thank you
are
guys.
so amazing.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, we really
Bye,
enjoyed
everyone.
you. So take care, okay? Thank you.
Bye.